GameMarx.
Welcome to GameMarx, the podcast for Xbox Live indie games and development. GameMarx, where gamers control the means of production.
Hey everyone, welcome to the GameMarx podcast. Here with Mike, myself, Mike, Dylan,
hi,
Cicely,
Hola.
Chris Williams is MIA at the moment. I hope everything is okay with Chris. He didn't show up for our game meetup group. Haven't been able to get in touch with him in the last several hours, and so we're just gonna go ahead and record. And I hope everything turns out to be well. I just overslept or slipped the date or dropped my iPhone in the lake and didn't get your message. So now Chris probably runs a Windows 8 device, right? He's an MVP. He has to. He has to have a Windows 8 phone.
Doesn't matter. If it's dropped in the lake, it's still dropped in the lake.
Well, so getting on topic, I've seen stuff at CES that would say, no, that's not the case. I saw the Liquipel stuff. Have you guys seen any of Liquipel?
I've heard about that.
That's the spray coating. You just spray on the device, and now, like, it's a chemical water repellent. So, when you spray the Liquipel on whatever, water just repels from it and creates a little air gap. And, it was funny because they have, like, little booths where you can push a little button and dunk the iPhone in the water and let it come back up and dunk the water,
It still works.
Yeah, and it still works.
Is this water resistant or waterproof? I know that's probably a dumb question.
I don't know what they call it, and I don't know what, like, depth and how they rank it on that thing. Because it's different in that usually your water resistant or your waterproof stuff are just tight seals around everything.
Right.
And this is not. This is you take an existing item, you spray it with this coating that you supposedly can't feel. I didn't get hands-on with any Liquipel stuff. And then water will not adhere to it. And you can do it with the fabric, too. So, like, they show, like, taking a tissue that's coated in Liquipel, dropping it in a tank of water, pulling the tissue out, the tissue's completely dry. It's pretty amazing stuff. It'll probably cause cancer, and the zombie apocalypse will come from people blowing their nose with Liquipel tissues or something. Actually, I kind of wondered that. When I saw that, I'm like, okay, so nothing sticks to it. So what would happen if I blew my nose on this tissue? Would it just, like, the snot just, skate the surface and fly off?
Is it nothing sticks to it, or is it specific to water?
I think it's specific to water.
Like,
so...
I mean, the difference, like, pure water isn't...
Right, there might be a viscosity difference or something on that. All I know it is a chemical thing. Somewhere around here, I grabbed one of the little handout flyers. Like, it's a thing that you can even take devices into, like, their store or mail them to them, and they'll code it for you, and you send it back. Like, you mail them your iPhone, they'll code it, and they'll send it back. And of course, I think their angle is more like manufacturing it. Like, they're not trying to sell the consumer a Liquipel spray. They're more like, want manufacturers to just like the, DuPont, Stain Masters. Like, this has been Scotch guarded, Like, you can buy Scotch guard, but really, like, when you buy furniture, it's got the little, like, DuPont, Scotch guard, on it. That's what they've been doing. So yeah, that's on our topic. I was at CES all last week. People told me that the show floor is so huge you cannot cover it, cannot walk it all. Bullshit, you can, because I did. Now, I will say you do not want to walk it all. And my entire 3 days at the conference was just walking show floor.
Did you track how far you actually walked?
No, that would have been cool if I would have remembered to put on, like, some kind of Fitbit type Nike pedometer thing.
I mean, there are apps that'll do it. I guess you couldn't do it based on GPS.
I mean, there's a whole section of CES dedicated to that kind of stuff. And
there are cheaper options.
I should have done that.
Fitbit.
Oh man, my feet. So basically, my days revolved around Vegas time. I would get moving around 8, shower, get downstairs about 9, have a good breakfast, go upstairs, have a good shit. Just be honest, that's what, because it's like, don't want to be trapped in a CES stall room, like, that's not what I'm looking forward to. They're probably fine. I don't want to have to find out one way or the other. Also, big breakfast, too, because, like, lunch is going to be light. Lunch is going to be whatever I can grab.
Yeah. There's going to be lines.
In the field, lunch in the field. Get over to the conference zone, and then we'll just pick a hall or two and cover that entire hall. And by covering that hall would be me walking up and down the entire length of the hall. These are several football fields in length, one of them. And I would have to go up and down and up and down and up and down. So, like, maybe 4 or 5 times in a hall, so that, like, the booths mostly made aisles, but then you'd have, like, Intel would get a booth, and that would span, like, multiple region zones, which would kind of fuck up your flow if they were in the center, right? So you had to get on the left and right of them. So I tried the best as I could. I can't say I covered 100%, because I know there were some booths that I missed because of having to swerve around things I couldn't quite remember. It's like, did I fucking go down that? I don't remember looking at that shit. So I basically just slowly strolled through the different conference floors. I did Central Hall and South Halls 1 and 2 the first day. The second day I did the North Hall, the ones that were at the Hilton, the LVH hotel. No longer a Hilton, but everybody fucking calls it the Hilton. And we'll give you instructions by, go to the Hilton booth and they can check you in there. Because that's where the pre-registration was the night that I got in. And it's like, okay, I'll go to the Hilton across the street. There's no fucking Hilton here.
Like, this just changed recently, I see.
But there is, well, it used to be called Las Vegas Hilton. And now it's like Las Vegas Hotel. But it's just LVH everywhere. So I saw the H and I kind of just assumed, and I got there and I saw some CES stuff and got pre-registered there. And it was funny because, like, as I was walking out, somebody else was walking in. They're like, hey, can we register here? And I'm like, yes, you can, but you're going to have to go out and around. She's like, oh, they said, like, come to the Hilton. I'm like, oh, well, the LVH is a Hilton. And what you're going to do is go out, walk around, and go here. And like, oh, you're so helpful. I'm like, been here 15 minutes, but I guess I'm a Vegas native now because I just learned all this 15 minutes ago.
And I retained that knowledge.
And it's like, if you walk in this door like I did, that looks like the main entrance, you can't get in without a badge. And they're like, oh, well, a badge thing is on the other side here, but you're not allowed to walk through to get the badge without a badge, so you have to walk around the thing. And the funny part is that you have to walk through the casino to get to that other entrance. That was the tricky part.
Everything goes through a casino.
So I was expecting to, like, have... Because there is walkways around the casinos, and through the middle of the casinos, but I didn't realize you actually have to go to a casino floor sometimes to get to another hallway, to get to that. So I directed them there. So I covered the LVH and the North Hall, the second day, and then the third day I covered the outside stuff, some of the tents, and then went over to the Venetian, which is 5 stories. The Venetian is like a business expo plaza plus a fucking mall, like Galleria level mall. And so I strolled around it for a little bit too, because the Venetian is kind of where you could barely afford to go to CES. You got stuffed.
Yeah.
So the bottom floors were huge. The upper floors were smaller. The amount that CES was taking up on them.
When you say you can barely afford, you mean as an attendee or as an exhibitor?
As an exhibitor.
Okay.
So a lot of that was stuff I wasn't bothering to stop for. But it was also the area where you'll just find some crazy shit. Which is where I ended up sticking things down my ear canals and playing audio and like, wow, this is fucking amazing.
Sticking things down your ear canals. I remember seeing that tweet.
Yeah, so...
was that like an earbud, or was that like a device to...
It's okay, on the end of, like, the microphone part of the ear, the headphone set, the earbud.
Yeah.
Is like a little... The only way I can describe it is like a deflated condom bag, right? With inside of it, like, a drink straw. Like a stir straw. Like a tiny little pick stir straw. So it kind of stays extended, but it's a little rubber piece on the inside.
Oh, it's there to kind of keep it formed.
It's all deflated, but it's kind of keep it there. So you can shove it down your ear canal. Like, it doesn't just go like an earbud in the end of your ear. It goes inside of your ear a good distance. And then, from the inflation in the speaker, it can inflate itself with a tiny little pump and everything. And it basically walls off everything. But it also converts all of... So when the speaker moves back and forth, and it's in your ear, and you've got an earbud in, right? It's pushing air in and out of your ear. But not really. It's creating a vacuum and pressurizing because you're sealed off. You know, you've kind of got that seal going. It's kind of damaging and harming to the ear. And what this does is convert that back and forth pressure increase moment to vibrations inside of this little bag that then vibrate your canal, your whole canal, which vibrates the eardrum. And so you're not increasing or decreasing the pressure in your ear. And as awkward as this sounds, you don't feel a damn thing in your ear. It feels fine. It
seems painful, but I guess it's like...
It does. Now, I went there and basically, because I'm deaf in my one ear, I'm like, well, I'm curious about this because I have a lot of scar tissue in my ear that had cancer and you know, all that surgery was done. I don't know whether I have hearing problems because I have scar tissue blocking my hearing, or I actually have damage to the eardrum itself, okay? But if you were to vibrate my ear canal, there's a different method of hearing that if it's scar tissue, I might actually hear. And so I was very interested in trying this out, and I waited quite a while at the booth and talked a little bit about the guys. When they found out about that, they're like, oh, we have to try this. And we definitely want to try this out. And the guy who was there was the doctor who kind of invented this, and also he'd been like doing ear stuff for years and you know, medical doctor type thing. And, now his discomfort was like he could not find my ear canal in my ear that had surgery because it's like all kind of scar tissued over. I'm like, it's there. And don't worry, I can't feel anything. And also, if you see blood, that's normal. That's just part of my life now. It just never healed properly, and it kind of weeps, and it just gets a little crusty in there, and I just clean it out frequently. What they ended up doing is having one person kind of hold the bag in there as best she could while it inflated to fill up as much as they could. And I did hear out of that ear. Now, I have heard out of this ear with some noise-canceling earbuds as well, cranked really up. So I do have some hearing capacity. With more time and the ability to finesse it in my ear better, and also I think he just wasn't willing to, like, shove something down an ear. He did not.
Yeah, this seems like a liability.
It does. It did seem like a liability thing. But he put it in my other ear, and when he hit play on the iPod and played, and I heard that, I have never heard music that well in my life, pre or post ear injury, no sound system, no headphones, the fidelity, the nuance and the percussion that I heard, and it was hilarious too because it was Peter Gabriel in my life or whatever, you know, playing, you know, just kind of stereotypical like cheesy 80 movies aha moment music, but it also perfectly like
so when you tried it out, you would have that like
it was.
You would have the perfect soundtrack.
It was a perfect soundtrack, and I even commented on the guy like that. I'm like, by the way, Peter gave nice choice on that. You know, nice. You know, I was expecting like some classical or type like that, but it was a song that you would know, and then all of a sudden you realize I'm hearing parts I never heard before in this song. I'm hearing parts of the tambourine I would not actually hear. Now, this was in the crazy tech hall. So, the reason I waited so long is Logitech were all over this guy. And apparently Apple had been all over this guy. And apparently everybody who makes headphones was all over this guy. Like, this is going to come to market, okay?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting marketing. Now, they have two versions. They have an earbud version and the ear canal version. So the ear canal version is the best. But the earbud version goes in like an earbud and then inflates. So it's like getting custom molded earbuds. But then after that, it's still...
But it's not all the way in your ear.
It's not all the way in your ear, and because it's not all the way in your ear, it can't do the conversion of the push-pull to the vibration method. So it's just a really tight-fitting earbud. That may be interesting, but like this other one coming out, like it was simply amazing. It's basically my best moment of E3. I filmed a lot of video at E3, and I'm going to put together some videos, and they'll be up on Funkworks YouTube channel, and showing everything. But this was basically what I would call my E3 moment. I mean, this was a moment of like, yeah, this is great tech. It may be a year or two off at best, but I mean, once we have these, it's going to be amazing. And like one of the uses is on stage. I mean, it shut out. E3 is loud.
Right.
It shut out all the noise. I couldn't hear anybody next to me. I could just hear Peter Gabriel, you know?
Actually, that would be pretty good for, you know, especially for phones and things like that.
Well, not even for phones, but like on-stage performances or in loud situations, you know, airports, you know, airline, you know, any kind of loud situation where you need to be able to hear, and there's too much just noise around you. Like, and just hearing protection. Like if you're in, you know, construction working, you know, get mic'd up on the PA system so that you can talk to everybody in the construction zone, but you can't hear the jackhammer. You know?
It's kind of like having a, you know, a headset with earplugs.
Now, because it's taken so long and they spent so much time and there's a long line of people wanting to see this booth, I didn't hang out, but I did really want to, like, break out my iPod and go, 1 second, could we just put in some Skrillex? Just want to play some dubstep to this. I just want to have that experience, but I didn't press on that.
Were they basically letting everyone try it out, or was it just you because of the, you know, issue with your
I think I got bumped in, but I mean, you would have to wait a while if you wanted to get it to try out. I think they weren't. So like when I saw the Mondo Spider, that was very clearly like, are you from CES or from you know, CNET? Or are you Veronica Belmont? No, then fuck off. All right.
Yeah.
You're not gonna watch it. We're not even gonna power it up for you. Fortunately, I caught the Mondo Spider when another film crew was filming it, and I was waiting for them to say something. I was like, "Hey, this is kind of our exclusive content." I was really like, "Fuck you." Right? This is at CES. You want your exclusive content? Then come back and get these guys an exclusive moment. Look at all these iPhones, you know, like, just because I have a nicer looking camera than an iPhone, but, I mean, they didn't say anything like that.
I would just expect,
the Mondo Spider is that big, massive spider walk thing that you can get in and drive, if you know, you were going to say.
Never heard of that. I would expect with earphones, like, I don't know, that just doesn't seem like something you could safely share person to person. Like, you'd have to get a new, especially the one that goes all the way down the ear canal. Like,
so that's I mean, they there were like sterilizing between, you know, all that, and it did look like it would not be hard to tear this, you know, like folding this up and putting it in your pocket is not something you would do with these headphones.
Yeah.
So how that ends up working out as it comes to market, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how it evolved from what I played with, because I very, very, very obviously played with rough prototypes.
Right.
And concepts, proof of concepts. And it'd be very interesting to see if like Logitech or Apple start making these. How do they consumertize it? How do they make it, you know, so it's not a problem tech and it doesn't require a PhD to get in your ear just right and situated.
I get the feeling it would look very medical. Like, you'd look at that and like, whoa, no, don't get that near me.
The thing is like when it's in my ear, it's in my ear. It's just a cable coming out of my ear. So it's like the earbud cable, except you don't see the earbud. You just see a cable.
I would have the same problem putting this in that I think I would have putting contacts in. Just,
yeah, see, that's the thing. It was not, now granted, one ear I don't have any feeling, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
But in my ear that it does, like, I was expecting some kind of weird feeling, gross, obvious, you know, like oh, I've got this Q-tip in my ear, just
you're gonna feel a pinch, and then,
Did you ever see, like, the Tales from the Dark Side, where the guy has this inner voice telling him, like, everybody's out to get him, and look at the way they're looking at him, they know, because he killed, like, his partner or something, and then, like, they know, or something like that. And the thing is, at some point, he tries to get the voice out of his head. He's like, I'm just hearing things, and he swabs it. And what happens is the swab breaks off and sticks in his ear and is now bleeding. So, like, when everybody, when he thinks everybody's looking at him because they know, they're looking at him because he's got an ear swab sticking out of his ear with blood. And he finally sees it in a mirror, and the voice is like, oh, well, maybe they just saw that. But he's already like, fuck you, how do you know I killed him? He deserved it. He was a son of a bitch. I shot him point blank, and I don't care anymore, you know? And all that, and yeah, it was a real... That's what I felt like it was going to be like. But no, I didn't feel anything in my ear. I felt nothing was there. I I was surprised by that. In fact, from my comments and my reactions listening to it, because I asked them to film me, they were like, can we use that as marketing? Can you send that to us? So I may be in like, I doubt I'll be in like an Apple ad, but I may be in like on their site.
This is what they send to like investors.
Yes, yeah. And I was like, totally, yeah.
People want to license it.
So, just kind of, I'll recap the order in which I saw things that I think are related to GameMarx. I started out, and I think the first gaming booth that I came upon was, let's see if I can find the damn company name. Shit, they make a, we've covered them on GameMarx. And
what do they do?
They make the controller, that you put your, like, iPad, your tablet into, and then you have these dual stick controllers attached to the side.
It's not iCade, is it? Or is that just the name of the...
No, it's not an iCade.
I know what you're talking about, though. I think I've seen them on ThinkGeek.
I thought that was day one, but now I'm looking through my, I'm looking through my videos here, and maybe that was on day two, but it seems like the first one I can remember. Okay, so there was the NVIDIA, MakerBot, Razer Edge. Let's just see if I can pull that up. Yeah, RazorZone.com. Yeah, so here I got an image.
That's what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, so I got hands-on with this thing, and if you're listening to the audio podcast, I mean, it's basically like you got these big two bars that are snapped onto the side of your... Actually, it's a whole frame, so it sits in the whole frame. But it looks like these big two bars snapped on the side. The tops of the bars have thumbsticks. Beneath them, they've got buttons. On the tops, they have triggers. Now, the first thing I noticed is that this thing is running... Windows 8. It's running like a Windows 8 Pro tablet.
This is not a tablet accessory, this is a tablet itself.
I think you buy the entire thing. You don't get just an accessory.
It's not just like Bluetooth tablet. And here's instructions to connect to these models.
No, and I think the reason a lot of the gaming tablet stuff was Windows 8 Pro tablets, and I think that's just because they're full-blown Windows. And they just show up as a controller, and then, when he launched this, first of all, the battery had died, because people kept taking it off the stand, and they had it set up so that, like, the charging cable could not reach once it was off the stand. So, bad on their part, because people want to just pick this up and use it.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to have used it on the stand. So, it died, and he was trying to get it rebooted and plugged back in on the charger for me. And while he was doing that, I saw him boot it and load it. Windows desktop, he's got a keyboard and a mouse, and he used the mouse to launch Steam and launch Dishonored, and then that's what I played. I played Dishonored, so, it's kind of cool in that it's full-blown PC gaming on a tablet. You're running the actual PC games, you're running your Steam client, so I think if you were into the idea of, like, I want a tablet and I want to play my PC games on it, this might be an area that Windows 8 tablets might make a lot of sense on.
Yeah.
If you're going to want, like, normal gaming, like iPad gaming, I think iPads are going to be better. I think the store and the support and the games and all that. But the idea that you could just load up Steam and play your Steam games there as long as they had controller support or, touch support or something like that. And there were a number of hybrid and Windows 8, tablet docking systems, set the dock and the keyboard, oh look, here's a flip thing where it converts, or Sony had like one where the keyboard slid out from underneath it. So a ton of hybrid ideas built around the Windows 8 Pro tablet idea.
That's interesting, because there's been a couple of those already, and there's, of course, on the Android side, there's been things like, I think the Asus Transformer.
Right.
But, this makes more sense than iOS or Android.
Yeah, because like Android and iOS are tablet OSs adding on desktop features.
Yeah.
They're not working as well in this hybrid situation, whereas Windows is full-blown Windows OS. Like, Steam will run. It'll run just fine. So, in an Intel-based tablet, you're good.
It's just going to be expensive.
It is expensive. That's the cost, like, setback. Like, you're going to look at $1,200 for this. I don't know it's worth that. I don't know if that's the price exactly on that, but it seemed to be like a going rate of, $1,000 for any of these hybrid studio solutions. Like, for the Intel level tablet, for enough RAM to run your PC games on a tablet.
Well, actually, and one of the things we've said about like Windows 8 being kind of this big question mark, but Windows 8 being the Vista and then Windows 9 being the equivalent of Windows 7. This may be where we kind of see some of that. A lot of the decisions they made make sense with the right hardware, just not in the places they made them.
If you're going to get into a Windows 8 tablet, I think you don't want to get a Surface tablet. I think you want to get a Sony or somebody else who's manufacturing this tablet. They seem to have the more interesting ideas. The touch keypad in the cover thing that Microsoft was doing, it's like, no. I think the ones that have bought into the whole transformer angle, laptop, tablet hybrid, were doing more interesting things than Microsoft was doing with the concept. So you may want to watch that this year. You may want to research that if you're going to go that route, if that is an interest that you have in a tablet, to get that. Now, I will say, playing on that thing, I'm bringing Image back up here again. I'm not impressed. And the reason I was not impressed is it felt a little cheap. The plastic felt a little thin and things like that. The controllers didn't have that nice spring tension response that the Xbox controllers have. Also the positioning. So it's really hard to switch from the thumbsticks to the buttons, because on an Xbox controller, your thumb is going in an arc, right? Between a thumbstick or a D-pad and all that. On this, they have to crunch down. And that was not comfortable at all. I had a hard time kind of orienting and playing myself in Dishonored. A game I hadn't played, by the way, so I was kind of like, oh, well, alright. But at least it was at the beginning. But just trying to move around the world and all of that.
You're learning the game and you're learning...
The biggest problem I had was spinning the camera around, because there was no pushback on the thumbsticks, or not very much. I was easily swinging myself all the way around, and I just kind of wanted to...
And not bringing it back to center.
Yeah. It centered okay. But it only when you released it. It wasn't spring tension, so that you could do a good quarter, 3/4 full control on that. So
is this one already out, or is it still kind of... I think
it's already out. It seemed like it was.
I was going to say, maybe these are things that they'll fix.
If not, they're really close to being out. I mean, at this point, it was on the floor and anybody could pick it up and demo it. Whereas if you saw the news where Intel, I think it was, is making a handheld, or maybe it was NVIDIA. It was NVIDIA or Intel is making a handheld gaming system. Looks like a weird Xbox controller that hatches open.
I don't think I've seen this
So
yet.
the thing is that was not on the show floor. Alright, so anything like that was not on the show floor. That was an appointment-only thing. So I did not get to see anything like that. So near these guys, I hit the Intel booth. Intel had fucking cars in their booth, powered by NVIDIA. I'm sorry, I hit the NVIDIA booth. NVIDIA had cars in their booth, powered by NVIDIA. And I'm talking about the dash and the GPS and the onboard systems were all NVIDIA powered systems. And I just I don't get it. Why? Yeah, here's a Tesla powered by NVIDIA. Okay, that's kind of cool. More because I'm seeing the up close Tesla sedan, right?
Yeah.
Than seeing powered by NVIDIA. But since I was hanging around there, and I kind of looked around, and it was not a whole lot to see by NVIDIA, because it was basically setting up appointments for the back to see real announcements and all that, and I can't get back there. There was a woman who nobody was around her booth, and she kind of saw I had a camera, and she almost kind of just roped me into talking, because she was standing there with two NVIDIA PCs and had some Call of Duty type game up on both the monitors, and it just looked like showing the improvements in shader effects or something. I don't know. It's the NVIDIA Shield. Thank you, Smiler Tune. Yeah, the NVIDIA Shield is going to be the handheld gaming, which would be interesting because I don't know if there's a handheld gaming market
anymore. What does it run? Is it its own?
It was announced at CES. It's brand new. I'd have to go look it up because, like I said, I couldn't see it. So the she was telling me basically like, hey, you know, we're going to solve this problem of gamers. You get your PC game, and there's a bazillion options to configure the graphics card settings to get the game to run optimally, and people either do it poorly and they have a slideshow, or they don't turn any of them on at all and they leave it on the default, and it doesn't look like the developer intended. And she basically showed me the system that's going to come with NVIDIA drivers. So this is not coming with the game. So you like load up Dishonored or Call of Duty or whatever PC game you're playing. And NVIDIA drivers will kind of recognize that as a game they know about. So probably they might even work with developers to like create profiles or something. And then it will be able to write the settings with a one-click button. And you'll click this button that says Optimize. And then it says, oh, okay, well you're running a GFX 250. So you are capable of running these settings, you know, maybe it looks at your RAM and your, you know, resolution or what, some other settings too, to CPU and stuff like that to kind of figure it out. But it knows your graphics card, if it's an NVIDIA card. And it knows what the, you know, game has been tested at and everything, and sets those options for you immediately. So you get the best possible, you know, experience on the games in one click. You just hit Optimize and it's done. And I was like, really? That's pretty damn cool, you know, because I don't get in there and mess with all that shit, and it'd be nice to know, like, it could look really nice, but I wouldn't jack everything up. If it looks okay and it runs smooth, then I'll just play the game. You know.
I know I have that problem, especially playing on a laptop.
Yeah, especially, that's a great thing. Like, mobile, it would be really amazing for if you have a mobile NVIDIA chip in there of, like...
and I actually do, so...
What can you get away with?
Yeah.
That NVIDIA Shield runs Android and PC video streaming.
Okay.
So, I mean, it looked cool and looked interesting. It's just that I don't know what the handheld market is like. 3DS has not been taking off well. Vita has not been. I played on a Vita. I mean, they were out. I was at the Sony booth. They were there. I picked one up for a little bit. Messed around.
It's been out for a while, though.
Yeah, it's not new. Not new
tech.
I
was going to say.
I just got hands-on time with the Vita. And I was like, this is not a bad little system. It looks kind of nice.
What?
It would have been cool back in the day, but I have no interest in buying one now.
What the Shield makes me think about is things like, you know, we've talked about like the Game Stick and the Ouya, where here's a major player coming in and, you know, promising a product that, you know, is legit because they're a legit company and kind of standardizes what Android gaming looks like. You know, like hardcore Android gaming as opposed to
Let me just go ahead, see if I can get a screenshot for you. These will be our show notes. Yeah, so here is the NVIDIA Shield. So I have to tell you, it's like a controller, an Xbox controller with this like flip-up screen. So, I mean, that does look fairly interesting. I mean, it does seem like that might be a good, this can get support. And they just announced it, so I don't know what the pricing is going to be, what they're targeting, on that kind of thing. So, I mean, I just still love my DS, you know, it's so tight and compact.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, man, packing and traveling with my Xbox controller, like, that does not travel well. That thing is kind of a bulky little thing that doesn't ever sit right in there. And
I think I broke the wire on my wired controller last time I took it anywhere. So,
oh, did you?
Yeah,
Great.
like
Awesome.
It just stopped working and I had to get a new one.
Yeah, Smiler June points out, more than $200 and it won't sell. And
yeah,
I agree, but I'm looking at it and it's like, the hardware they're going to pack in that to make it, you know, looks like, how do you sell that for $200, but at the same time, the market's not going to bear. If you start getting close to iPad pricing, even iPad mini pricing.
Well, whether they succeed or fail, I think it's going to be a better shot at making Android gaming, hardcore Android gaming a thing, as opposed to, like, Ouya and GameStick, which may have a good approach, but are probably not going to have the industry name behind it.
So, I also caught up, since I'm going to go ahead and just pull these up. No, it is not that site. I don't know how I got there. Stop.
What is that?
That is something I want to stop right now, and it has no way to mute. Alright, close the window.
What was that?
I don't know, I just type in Sift, and I thought I typed in the rest of it, but there we go, SiftOQ. So I got to play with these Sifto cubes a little bit. And these guys are let's see, they got a better picture on their site. These guys run independently, right? Little bitty apps, but it can all run like the same game. So like there's a base station, and they all sync to. That loads the game up, and then they all load the game, and then, you know, you can kind of play with the different cubes, and they can recognize when they've been flipped over, rotated, when they're side by side with each other. So, like, the demo that I got, and I played with, like, was this little puzzle game where you had to clear everything by tapping cubes together, and then the dots sort of cause a chain reaction, and you couldn't have any left over, so if you did it wrong, you'd have, like, one dot left or something like that.
Yeah.
These looked okay. I mean, they look cute. It's the kind of thing you're like, I don't know if this will catch on to be big enough. Like, that's going to be a really hard kind of sell.
It doesn't seem like it expands much. Like, there's not much to expand upon. It's kind of really specific.
It would be cool and a kind of get kids interested in programming them way. Although it is like a C++ SDK. So it's not an easy-to-enter SDK for kids. They do have a contest going. If you hit developers.siftio.com, I'll have links in the show notes. There is a contest going right now that if you can download an emulator and write apps for it, and that will publish and you know, to the winner of the contest and all that. So, and that could be an interesting feather in your cap, because it's not going to be a largely entered contest, given how niche the device stuff is.
Yeah.
But that you could be on. Let's see as I go through my stuff here. Not really game related, but I did stop over at the Vocaloids booth. So the guys that make the Vocaloid software, you know, the Vocaloids are those Japanese invented 3D artists, you know, like they go and they perform shows. So the software, though, is for the voice. You can type in words and set notes and it sings it, and that's going to be commercially available software. It did not look like they were making the 3D modeling software, although I will check up on them as you do. So let's see. So we want to go to... So the other booth I stopped into was this Muse thing. Brain sensing headband. It's kind of a SDK level thing. You put on this little wireless headband, and then it links up with the PC, and then I guess you'll get an SDK and work with it from there. There was a lot of this kind of stuff at CES this year. A lot of these brainwave headband sensing things.
What could you actually do with it? Was it like that one, I know there's like a game, I think it was like a Force game or something that, depending on whether you were calm or not, would...
That is it. So all of them measured two things. Your focus, your state of relaxed.
Yeah.
And they all had two bars on the screen somewhere that were like, the more focused you are, the higher this bar goes, the more relaxed you are, the higher this bar goes. So the goal of all those things was to be focused and relaxed.
Just basically like biofeedback.
It looked like just an EKG meter. Like, for all the, like, brainwave reading...
Yeah.
Like, this just looked like... I hate to say it. It looked like snake oil. I mean, there was no, like, can I make Mario move to the left? Can I pan the screen? Can I cause the screen to change colors? Can I... Like, if all I can do is focus and relax, how do I build anything around that other than they focus and relax and do
I was going to say, that feels kind of like a weird productivity tool. Like, here's this tool that will help you focus and relax so you can cram more stuff into your life. Wait a minute. I think I found your problem.
So there were a bunch of these, and that's what they all had, and they all worked similar, and they all, put something on your forehead, and a little metal contact went right there.
But it is kind of magic at this point. Like, this has not hit...
It's slightly magic, but there was also, like, somebody who had, like, cat ears, and they had the same kind of headband. So you put the headband on, and then the headband had little cat ears.
I've heard about those.
They moved. They moved.
And
it was like...
That's scary.
That seems to be, like, the limit of what you could do.
People I would like those cat ears.
They would pay for that, but I mean that seems like the limit of the technology.
Because then you can see when my ears lay back.
The limit of technology, making lots and lots of money from people with that reaction.
You can't control the ears. You can't think ears forward, ears back. You can only focus and relax. That's it. So it's like if you're relaxed, the ears go back. If you're not, like they go forward or something. Like, and then to try to do that on command. It was ridiculous. Now,
doesn't matter if you can. Matters if you think you can.
I did try it out. So I did sit down and try it out, and within 60 seconds, I pegged both the bars. Like I sat there, just focused, relaxed, and then even like conversed with her, keeping those bars focused and relaxed. And I was like, "Yeah, I have 3 daughters, a wife. I'm like the only male in my house. I go to my happy place like that, like bam." On the My Little Pony Ranch. That's where I'm at, So,
maybe a sign of trauma is what you're saying.
I go to my safe
zone.
You
need psychological.
Yeah.
So can we sign you up for Tuesday and Thursday psychological help?
Yeah. So I don't know.
You need out of that toxic environment.
What commercial you still have outside of dumb things like the cat ears?
Yeah.
They seem good on that. I did check out this thing called Go Bird. Let's see, it is Leonardo.
What?
Leonar 3do.com. It's a great, go look it up in show notes link.
Leonardo.
And it's this thing they call the bird Go Bird.
Is it the word?
And it's a little, let's see if I get a good shot. Don't play video, I don't want video. Products, technology. I just want... You're gonna make me play it.
I don't have to listen to you talk, though.
I don't think he was the guy I interviewed.
No, that was a different face.
Yeah, alright, so... I can't pause it, I guess.
Nope.
Just what is it, is kind of what I'm...
Yeah, I'm trying to get a good... It's kind of dark. Where they had that, like... All their demo crap is horrible.
It looks like an airbrush sprayer. If anybody's played with that before. But it looks like a controller, yes?
Alright, we'll take this as a win here. So, you got... The screenshot here has like this mocked up 3D view of what you're seeing. It's a combination of this little weird mouse pointer with wings on it that you hold in your hand. It's a 3D. You just free space it, okay? And on top of it, it has a button. A couple buttons on it, like your left and right mouse button. On your monitor, you mount some sensing cameras, which I guess are IR cameras that are sensing the position of the Go Bird itself, right? They're trying to figure out in 3D space where it's at. And then you also wear a set of 3D glasses so that you can now see the screen in 3D. And then you can see the screen in 3D, and then now you can load up and begin drawing your model in 3D space.
It's kind of like a 3D mouse, or am I...
Yeah, it's okay. Sort of like a 3D mouse. Like, all this kind of stuff comes together. The headset is also eye tracking, or head tracking. So if you move your head left and right, you do pan the model around left and right, or whatever you're looking at, too. They are really just making the hardware and the SDKs. They have some apps that support it and come with it, but they're not like saying like, no, this is a 3D modeling package. Like, no, they showed off like, here's some people that made a game, and here's some people that made a 3D modeling package, and here's some people that made, this tech demo. So they're selling the raw components. They're not selling a modeling suite. But they set me up in a 3D modeling, and I put it on. And once I there was that moment of like, mentally refusing to adjust to the 3D image, and you're not seeing it right. And then you finally get past that, right? Where you're kind of now seeing it correctly, your eyes have adjusted, you're in the 3D verse. Then I was trying to manipulate items on the screen, and the moment that I got it was when I realized I have to touch the object. So because it was projected in 3D, and I had already gotten away from this, like, false 3D projection, I'd like gotten past the uncanny valley moment. It felt like, if I stick out much further, I'm going to touch the television screen. And I don't want to touch the television screen. I got to hold back from the screen, right? And kind of it will just figure out where I'm at. And then when I realized, no, you actually touch the model, I'm still away from the screen because it's being projected. Right. Then I kind of got it, and it seemed all right. It seemed, neat. The precision with the editing tool that was up there, I don't know that a hardcore 3D designer is going to want to give up the mouse and keyboard, to do this. Being able to use a mouse and keyboard in Vue in 3D like that with the head tracking might be, like a higher resolution. Yeah. Then again, it could just be the software and the emulation and the lights of CES, and like it might perform better on a more optimized situation.
It might be early in development or something like that. But it sounds like the type of thing that, because I want to say I've seen, I want to say like Jacob Nielsen did an article on that, on like the a usability article on like, 3D is never going to replace 2D. That was a long time ago.
It still has all that wonkiness of the 3D. I mean, you still have the glasses. They're still not comfortable.
But I mean, conceptually, I think his argument was 2D would never be replaced by 3D. But it definitely sounds like this is the type of thing that there are going to be a few applications that this is just perfect for. Not something you're going to use every day.
I mean, that's the stuff I got sitting on my desk that I was going through and have cards of. Trying to real quick think that I hit any other gaming related CES booths and things like that. I mean, there were some stupid little things I saw, like Sphero. Just a little like ball that you can kind of program, and it ran out in the field and use a controller to chase it, but then also had like this dock where you could use it like a trackball. But when I went up to it and tried to use it as a trackball, like there was this Tempest game which should have worked great, and it was horrible. I'm like, all you had to do, guys, was Tempest, and you fucked that up. So if you can't handle what we had in 1979, you don't get to have 2013. Like that's out. Yeah, I'm looking through, some interesting cases. I saw that kind of stuff, but, a lot of 3D printers I saw, a lot of TVs, a lot of headphones out there, that kind of stuff. I'll put in the video. One I will talk about is Sony had, a Windows 8 tablet that was like 23 inches big.
Like, yeah, you mentioned this
earlier. It was
like
a tabletop tablet thing. Had a little stand in the back so you could prop it up. And what was cool about it was that, again, put a keyboard and mouse in front of it, use it as a big giant all-in-one computer.
Well, that's the size of a monitor.
But it's also, it is.
Yeah.
Also, it's a touch screen with 10-finger touch capability, so you could, touch on it as well. So now you fold it down and just use your finger to draw on it or play with it that way. Or multiple kids could play one game on it kind of thing. But the stylus it came with had the rubber nub on one end, but had a brush on the other, like an actual bristle brush that it responded to as well. Now, when I asked the guy on that, how does it handle in comparison, resolution-wise and sensitivity-wise compared to, say, a Wacom tablet? And he answered, well, it's 16:9 resolution. I knew immediately
this is not the
it's not even, not only does he not understand what I'm asking, Sony's not even trying for that market, because if they haven't briefed the guy on the floor for, does it have 248 levels of sensitivity on it? Can I use different pen tips? Can I, do all this other stuff? The problem is that if that's what you want, the Wacom stuff is in basically the same price range.
Yeah, and I don't really understand, now that I think about it, how this differs from a monitor with a touchscreen built in, except that it's also a tablet. Especially considering that,
there's no cords. It was battery powered, so
That's true. But it seems like, one of the biggest revolutions in, the tablet market the last year is we went from a 10-inch form factor to a 7-inch form factor, and that was, amazing.
The advantage, again, is in a Windows 8 Pro tablet, is that you have a Windows 8 desktop. And if you just want to flip it into monitor mode and then load up Steam, hopefully all that works. I don't know what kind of graphics cards powering the thing and everything like that. And if it'll have any issues there in that respect. But, it is interesting. And a touchscreen that size, but you could just, grab it and take it to the floor, and then, kids are laying on their stomach just playing on this giant. It's interesting.
True. It does seem very much like the Microsoft Surface
$1,500, it's less interesting.
Yeah.
When you're talking $2,000 or whatever that these things are, getting into, for decent ones, it's way not interesting. But I thought the brush thing by far captured, that is interesting. That is.
And who's to say someone won't come along later and go, oh, it's a neat idea. That's a neat new form factor. It sells. Let's create one that actually has pressure sensitivity.
All right. Let's see what else. Let's get off the Go Bird shot. I did see the Qualcomm Snapdragon being demoed. Now, Qualcomm was demoing it in a reference design tablet, so that it wasn't in an actual, here's a tablet made by company X, or here's a screen for a phone made by X. And I will say that, and it's OpenGL, shader support and all that, just regular, anything that can support OpenGL should have no problem accessing it. On that screen, man, that they had, which was like a retina level display, fucking looked amazing. Like full-on PC games running on a tablet screen, made me think, yeah, we could do this. This could be done. Now, since they were running on a reference tablet, they had a Bluetooth controller hooked up, and so I picked up a full-on Xbox controller and played it on a tiny little screen that was on a stand, and I was like, yeah, this is great. This is amazing, and it looks wonderful. But then it's you're not going to have that. If you're on the airplane on the bus, you're not going to whip out a controller and prop up an iPad or something. So, I mean, there's other issues that go around that. It's going to be interesting to see how this stuff plays out as it comes to market, which ones gain traction and which ones don't, because some of it's kind of cumbersome, but some of it might be where, you know, kids just have their tablet and have their accessories that they carry with their tablet, and when they want to play their games, they get out the controller and just set it in their lap and they play, and that's how they, you know, that becomes a thing. So, I thought that was pretty cool, and definitely impressed by that tech. Let's see, that was a bunch of 3D printing. I did stop by the Wacom tablet booth. I don't know that they were demoing anything particularly new, but I didn't really stop to look. I mean, it's Wacom tablets. They had the Bamboo out, you know, and you could play on it. And you can also go over to their Clinique line, which is the line that has the monitor built in with the screen. And you could play on that as well and check that out. Since I'm not an artist, it's really hard for me to like go like, oh wow, look at this. This is the 4,000 levels of pressure sensitivity is amazing. You know, I wouldn't know the difference. I don't know what I'm looking at. I think that wraps up.
One question I had is, did you feel different because, did they treat you different because you had a camera?
No, I was mostly... It mostly was like, I think they were getting a lot of regular camera stuff, and I didn't have a crew. So, like, if you had a crew, I think you got front class service. If you came up one guy was walking around with a mic chained to a laptop that another dude was carrying on like a stand. Like he had like an old school music stand flattened halfway and the laptop on top of it, and he's holding it. And he's just walking around with this big giant stand thing, and I'm just like, dude, there are easier fucking ways than, you know, just be connected to the laptop like that.
Ironically, at an electronics show.
So, no, I did kind of get the, you're just a blogger snub at a couple places. Like, the most disappointing one was the Canon booth. Because I walked up. All the shooting that we do is on a Canon camera. And I walked up to where they were showing off the latest Vixias, the line of camera that mine is in. And my Vixia is a good 3 years old now. They don't even make or sell the model anymore that I have. And I wanted to know, like, just between this unit and the new units, like, what's going on? What do we upgrade for? And the guy who could tell me all this stuff and was real into the cameras and knew all the ins and outs, he wasn't allowed to talk on camera. He's like, oh, this other guy has to talk on camera. They have a spokesperson out there. So I waited in line behind fucking TechCrunch. TechCrunch got done doing their interview. I keep meaning to go up to the TechCrunch interview and just seeing if I'm in the background, like looking at the cameras while they're interviewing. And they got done, and then I'm like, oh, I want to ask her a few questions, and I'm like, you know, pointing out that I'm on this Vixia line camera, and he's not even getting it. You know, that I'm shooting on a Canon, and between this Vixia HF20 and the new model, what's the differences? And he just grabs one of them, and he talks about a couple features. And the features he's talking about, I have. You know, he's like, oh, we've got multi-card recording, so you have your solid-state cards in here, and you put them in there, and then you can record it. I'm like, yeah.
Did you go back to the other person and ask him?
Right now. You know, like, what you said is how I'm recording this right now on a 3-year-old camera. I didn't say that to him. I just kind of gave up, and I'm like, well, I just won't do a bit on that when I do my videos, because it won't be any, you know,
anything interesting?
No, or worth it. So, I did get snubbed a few times, but some of the booths were, they did kind of perk up. Like some of the 3D printing booths. I got the camera, and they gave me the full spiel so that I could go in and I could ask them all about the details of their 3D printers and get all that recorded. Except for MakerBot. So fuck those guys. Those guys literally were like, I'm sorry, we have these other people we're going to talk to. And I was like, okay. And then, like, went on to somebody else after that I very clearly was like, no, they showed up well after I did. And I've been standing here for 30 minutes because MakerBot unleashed a new model or something. And all I wanted to get was a few moments, like 60 seconds to 2 minutes on mic. Tell me the new features of the new printer bot. I've got all the B-roll. And no, they just like jumped from guy to guy. So I was like, fuck you, I just won't include any MakerBot shit.
How did you identify yourself out of curiosity?
I did not go in and say, like, hey, I'm from Company X, or I'm trying to shoot for this or that. I didn't try that tact at all.
Because I thought that might...
I just went in and I just said, hey, do you mind answering a few questions on camera? You know? And usually the question they would say, sure, no problem. Are you going to edit or is it going to be live? And I was like, no, I'm going to edit. It's going to be voiceover on top of B-roll. And they go, okay, great. And I explained to them, like, I can't, because I don't have a microphone to hand you. I have to keep you on the mic of the camera, which means I'm mostly shooting your chest while you talk, or just your mouth zoomed in or whatever. And, like, that's not going to make interesting video. So I'm going to put whatever you're saying, I'm going to fill in with B-roll, or something. B-roll stands for background roll, which is what you call the just generic shots of, like, the interstate that the news studio uses when they talk about it. There's an accident on the interstate, and they cut the generic footage of an interstate. Yeah, that's B-roll. So I just take B-roll of the booth and then use that to overlay. Many of them were great about it. And, you know, again, all I wanted was a minute or two. Because usually my questions were, if it's very short, I was not trying to do, like, exhaustive interviews. Because it's a madhouse. It's a madhouse there.
I imagine the difference between the people who snubbed you and the people who are grateful are the people who have been the subject of enormous hype and the people who are hoping out of CES to be the subject of hype.
And definitely, like, MakerBot is already the leader of the 3D printers. All the other 3D printer manufacturers, including the ones who had invented the technology of additive printing technology, additive printing, were great. In fact, they gave me a wonderful interview. Their 3D printer, you'll have to see this in the footage, can mix materials, and they have a different way of printing, and it can print soft and flexible rubbers as well. So it doesn't just come out hard.
You can kind of choose what...
And not only can you choose, you can mix it all in one print. So you can go from soft to hard. It was amazing, the stuff that you were able to do with their printer. Their printer, I think, is like 40 grand.
Right.
Like, it's an industrial level prototyping device. They're on a whole other plane. But the fact that they gave me the level of attention... I started off the interview just explaining the technology cooperative and what my interest in the printers was. But I didn't follow up with them on my standard, like, you know, have you protected it from the kids, or how have you done this? Because many of them were going at... A lot of the printers were aimed at home printing now.
Right.
And cleaning it up to make it simpler and easier. The price point is not there. The price point was all $1,200 to $1,500. And it's like the pie maker that I bought that Kickstarter was $1,000, and that I consider the high-end, top of the line. That's too expensive for the market, I think. It's going to have to come down to where these things are $500 to $700 to start catching on. And then they're going to have to get to the $300 range quickly.
But the fact is, there's a lot of people in the market, so it's an active market. It's probably heading that way.
They will figure it out. They will streamline the production. They will make the printers better, cheaper, faster. It's going to get there. And maybe within a year or two. Like, not that far out. What a lot of people had to show, and you'll see in the videos when I produce them, we're close. We're getting there. We are getting there on the 3D printing world. So, I did walk down the weird... It's weird the way they segregated it, too. But, like, just like the generic, like, Asian component vendor of, like, here's LED screens, here's circuit chips, here's this. But they grouped them by, like, China. And they all had China flags over their booths. Hong Kong, which was separate from China. So, like, they weren't their own section.
Understandable.
No Japan.
What?
Well, 'cause they're all fucking Sony and shit, and they have, like, the real booths.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Taiwan and Korea. And that's when I heard Gundam Style, finally. That's when I was like, I finally fucking heard booths that were playing Gundam Style. And then I got it. Like, there is a fucking racial bias at CES. And Gundam Style is a Korean pop song.
Right.
You'd be damned if any Japanese or Chinese company is going to play a Korean pop song. And it made
even a Korean
sense.
pop song making fun of Korean pop songs.
It made sense why I kept seeing the same damn Japanese girl group over and over again. They have that song, Mr. Taxi. I forget the name of the group. The video's played to fucking death. If you see the video, you'll be like, oh, okay then. Or at least it'll be like, well, I've seen that style before. It's like 8 or 9
I know what the style is, but I don't know.
It was everywhere, and I'm like, this is nothing in the States. You know, this doesn't play at all. Everybody knows Gundam style. I forget it to be everywhere, but now I get it. It's like, no. We're each featuring our Justin Bieber is going to be at the top of all our booths, and we'll be damned if we're going to play the Korean one-hit wonder.
I think at this point, China would play anything from Japan over anything from South Korea.
Probably, yeah.
I was going to say, I don't know about China, but I know I've read that basically Gangnam Style hit, like it was high popularity in pretty much every country except Japan. Or, not every country, but, like U.S., Europe, and...
Oh, they were like, no, Asia. You shall not mock our style, and...
Well, I don't know if it's, like, mocking their style. It's just... Well, they've kind of got their own...
The song is mocking...
It's K-pop making K-pop.
That pop star... That type of video. I mean, that is a parody. If you understood the words and the lyrics, and the guy who did it is a comedian... And he is parodying the absurdity of their own pop culture.
I think, but I'm not sure there is kind of a line between J-pop and K-pop. There's not necessarily a crossover.
Well, they would tell you there's a line, but on this side,
yes, I understand that.
On this side of the pond, we don't care.
I don't know. I know some people who would probably have a very clear line.
I listened to a couple of podcasts where they played occasionally. They'll have streams of J-pop at the end. I know that person would be like, J-pop and K-pop are nowhere near alike.
Not that they would hate one over the other, but
yeah, there are separate but equal. There are two separate but equal Asian pop.
Oh, you just have to know the lingo. You
do. So that made it clear. I saw this weird fucking little, they looked like Android robots. They were for kids.
Like the little green.
The little green. Okay. They were very obviously ripping off the Android logo look. They weren't branded Android. They didn't run Android. They were these little robots. You put these flashcards in front of them, and then they asked a question, and then you showed a flashcard whether you got the answer right or wrong. So it's like, this is like 1990s, 1980s tech.
Yeah.
In this little bot. But when you got it wrong, the eyes on the robot went red and told you had it wrong, and it looked creepy as all hell. Like, all of a sudden, like, holy shit, it's become sentient. Kill it now. Run back to the Gundam style booth. Get the bar, because those were bar speakers. Those were giant speakers in a bar, so you could swing it and beat it. I saw this awesome little touchscreen DJ station. So it had like two little touchscreens on the side, and it was tiny. I mean, it was like not even a foot long, like 8 inches long. You had your controls in the middle, and then touch screens for the
turntables.
Turntables, and plug in your iPhone and all that. It's retailing for like $600, so it's definitely a luxury indulgence. But man, it looks slick and would be something fun to play with. Then again, I've got a turntable. I still never plugged into my damn computer, so I have no need to buy more.
More stuff that's going to collect dust.
Yeah.
And I've made progress on the garage. Yay!
Yep, so I will have to set up the green screen studio to record my CES videos, so I have to do everything, so I'll probably have to just do that in the downstairs, take over the living room downstairs again. I don't think that's ready out there yet.
No, it should be before the end of the week, but...
I kind of want to shoot this week and just get it done and out. But I gotta write my scripts first, before I bother setting all that up. And then get that out. I know on vacation, since I finished up, Hi. Yeah, so since I finished up, those two games, The Walking Dead and Spec Ops. Ooh, you smell.
Are you rancid?
You just farting, or you packing a load?
Are you rancid, child? Come to mommy, see if you're rancid.
Are you squishy?
Mommy. Come
Yeah, are you squishy?
Come here, kiddo. Let me see if you're rancid.
Bye. Okay.
Mommy.
You're rancid.
Bye-bye, Mommy. Bye-bye, Daddy.
Bye, Jasmine. Baby drunk. So, what was I saying? Oh, game-wise. I put in, I don't know why. I don't like these games.
You put in...
They Bleed Pixels.
What is They Bleed Pixels? I don't know.
It's the one with the girl that has like the tentacles for arms, like the little like schoolgirl in the black dress, and she has the tentacles for arms, and then it's like a Super Meat Boy type. Oh shit! If my Steam is open here, I'll just share a screen image real quick of, yeah, does this ring any bells now?
No, I've actually not really looked at it, but go on.
So it's an X and A game. It is X and A.
I know, I recognize the name, I just have not looked at it.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's really this kind of Super Meat Boy-ish hardest fun platformer. And when everything dies, you have this glorious pixelated blood. At the end, they're showing you some alternate modes that they have you can unlock throughout the game. It is kind of well done. I do think that the controls seem overly touchy. Like, it seems real easy to think you're jumping off the wall, and you're not. You're just falling on the wall because you didn't time the left and the jump button exactly at the same moment.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And now the advantage that it's supposed to have here, see if I can just go and play the video with it on mute. The advantage that you're supposed to have is that you can make like a checkpoint pretty much anywhere. Like, you just cast a spell and make a checkpoint. But it really isn't true. The checkpoints are spaced out so that as you do combos, you fill this meter, and then as you find these hearts, you fill this meter, and then when the meter is full, then if you stand still for a moment, a checkpoint forms. You don't push a button or anything, you just stand still. And the thing is like, these seem very deliberately placed of like, well, even if you do the great combos on the enemies and you get all this, it's not like you can checkpoint anytime you want. You're gonna have to go through this next segment and checkpoint, or they will have saw blades and stuff in the way so that you can't actually checkpoint, because you have to stand still in an area where there is nothing to cause a checkpoint. So it's not actually that you can checkpoint anywhere. And I'm into the 3rd level now. I don't know how many levels there are in total, but I'm really finding the point where I may just say, fuck it, I'm not playing the rest of this game. It was cute. It starts off thinking like it's going to be more forgiving than it actually is, and then it's like you get into level 3, and it's like, nope, we are hardest fun platformer, Twitch gaming at its best, and it's like, that is just not... It's to the point where I'm wondering of should I play it with my wired Xbox controller, because there might be less latency than my wireless.
Wow, that... I don't know. If you're to that point, yeah, you're...
Yeah. Now, it does have a cool thing in that, of course, it's Steam Cloud Sync, but also when you exit and you come back in, it starts from your latest checkpoint, not from the stage. You don't have to start over and replay anything at it. Unfortunately, the latest checkpointing doesn't Cloud Sync, just the latest level.
Yeah,
So when I switch from PC to my laptop, I lose some progress. That was okay, though, because at one point, I managed to, end up grabbing a bunch of power-ups and then having to backtrack and then using a checkpoint when it was very clearly designed for me to grab all those power-ups and then get a few more to fill my meter and checkpoint because it was like, oh, we're going to have this really hard section, a break, and a really hard section. And then I just made it where I basically forced myself to do 2 really hard sections in a row perfectly. And the other thing that sucks is, like, you get, like, 3 hearts, so you get, like, 3 hits. But then they quickly introduce, like, no, these are 1-hit kill spikes. Oh, no, you know, like, we're setting you up to instantly die. So it doesn't matter that you have 3 hits. You're going to die in one shot if you make one mistake.
Back when we were doing reviewing, I remember a couple of games like that, and
the art style reminded me of Crimson Dawn. In fact, when Apoxel was on Steam Chat, I said to him, you know, I was like, when I first saw this, I thought you made it. You didn't have any hand in this game, because it has a similar style with the way the pixels go out. No offense to Apoxel. It has a similar style. The graphics look a lot better. They look improved, but it has a kind of graphic style and improvement that you could say, like, oh yeah, I see where in 2-3 years that you went from this to this. You know, you honed your style and you got your effect better and you went to that. But he's like, no, not me. And he's like, you're not the only one that has said that either. But like if you go back and you play Crimson, what was it? Not Crimson Dawn.
I thought you said Crimson Dawn and Mute Crimson?
Mute Crimson.
Okay.
If you go back and you play Mute Crimson and you see the way the blood effects and things like that, the platforming works, you could see a lot of similarities. I don't think they're intentional. I'm not blaming either, you know, I'm not blaming they believe pixel guys, because, you know, the idea of, like, pixelated blood, that's not new.
No, door.
What's wrong with the door? What did the door do to you? It just existed? It happened to be there. Don't mock me. Do not make light of my tragedies.
And when she has capital T tragedies, the whole world shall know it and be miserable too.
So, you've been playing Spec Ops: The Line.
Yeah, I forget how many chapters in. I'm to the point. Actually, no. I was talking earlier. I think I got stuck on the point where you come up on a CIA agent being like about to be executed, and you have to save him, and it's kind of in this courtyard.
Yeah, he dies, I think, right after that or something, but he gives you, like, some information about, like, the 33rd, or we're here to stop them, or...
Yeah, and I mainly played this, again, because of the extra credits episode and some of the commentary, and being that I haven't played a lot of shooters, especially not the military shooters, I kind of find it hard to tell where there's actually commentary and where I'm just, like, reading stuff into it because I've heard about it. You know, at this point, it kind of feels like I'm the guy who's, you know, reading the book or watching the movie that, you know, critics have been raving about for years, and, you know, I don't really get it, but I'm doing it just because everyone else has said this is really great.
Well, I'm interested when you finish that one to have a discussion of, like, maybe a spoiler discussion of, like, what did you think at these moments and kind of thing, and opening it up a little bit. I'm
playing it on normal, and I kind of want to keep doing that, but I think I tend to be too aggressive, and the game does allow you to be stupidly aggressive sometimes.
Yeah.
Which, you know, we've discussed, and I think even Extra Credits discuss kind of, you know, in real war, obviously you don't heal up by taking cover for a few seconds, you know.
Yeah, you don't take cover. Wounds. I mean, well, even, like, at some points later in the game, too, I mean, it just gets stupidly obvious in the cover that it creates.
It's still obvious, but there's some kind of awkwardness. Like if you want to try to go around a corner or something, or if you want to swap to a closer piece of cover, that's easy. But if you want to sprint, it's...
I almost may go ahead and install it and do another playthrough again. Because after I played through it, and then I read a bunch of spoiler stuff, and, like, the guy who wrote the article, and then they pointed out, like, all these things that they had done. I'm like, I almost want to go with that in mind and play through it again, and, like, I'll blow your mind on about something on the cutscenes when you finish the game. Like, you'll be like, holy shit, I had no idea.
Yes, give me that article when I get done. I definitely want to see that to see where, like, I missed stuff, because I'm sure I've missed... And again, it's hard to tell.
Now, I will tell you, I think I was going to tell you this when we got sidetracked earlier. the whole idea of like Dubai being engulfed in a desert storm is completely feasible. Like,
really,
the guy that did this grew up in like Tornado Alley and things like that, and he was always just fascinated with the idea of like weather destroying an entire area. And we had Katrina and that kind of stuff happen, and then some archaeologists found like there's supposedly some fabled army that was sent by Egypt to Jerusalem or something that disappeared. I think that's where it went. I should know the name, and it's escaping me at the moment. And then, like, some archaeologists basically, like, uncovered this, like, city and all of these people who died, and it's an army.
Yeah.
Like, well-equipped and everything. And it's, like, showing that, no, the sandstorm can come on big enough and fast enough that you are just buried in sand, an entire city and civilization. And so since they found that, they kind of gave them, like, okay, wait a minute, this can happen. This has happened. So the idea of, like, Dubai, because Dubai is this, like, paradise that man has constructed in the middle of a desert. And it just seems so precariously balanced of, like, you can't do that to Mother Nature. You know, you can't just walk out the desert and say, no, here is paradise. So the idea of, like, a Dubai sandstorm. So the premise, and I don't know that this ever comes across well in the game, but it does at the beginning a little bit. So I'm not spoiling anything here because it's kind of explained at the beginning, is that they were trying to evacuate Dubai because of the sandstorm. They were having problems. The 33rd was on back from Afghanistan.
And they offered to come in.
They offered to help, but then they were ordered to abandon the help mission because the storm was too close. And the general in charge of the 33rd disobeyed orders, like, I'm going to help these people to get them out. Only the 33rd got swallowed in with the sandstorm along with the civilians.
Yeah.
And that you're the reconnaissance team sent in to figure out what the hell is there. Because there's radio signals coming out, so, like, what's going on?
What's so bizarre at this point, and again, I'm early on in it, is, you know, you see things like, you know, just this massive sandstorm, the fact that there are all these, like, there's one scene I remember where I'm walking through a tunnel and there are just all these bodies that have been killed by the 33rd, just like a huge number. You come out and there's this white phosphorus exploding, and it's this weird. At times.
By the way,
feels...
Willie Pete, when they start talking about Willie Pete, WP, that is also white phosphorus. I did not know that going through the game. It would have made some scenes more interesting, and I would understand them more, and I understand the reason that they're hammering home the damage that white phosphorus does.
Yeah.
Is because apparently it's in, like, Call of Duty. Of like, oh, sweet ass, I got Willie Pete, you know, I'm shooting the Willie Pete, you know, awesome, you know, and it's, like, become desensitized of, like,
to the concept.
Awesome, like, oh, sweet, you know.
And that actually may be part of it. It seems so fantastic that you almost, like, I believe all of these things are perfectly capable of being real, but
you're also kind of wondering,
like, I'm going to get to the end and I'm going to see, like, they've harnessed some ancient artifact, or, you know, like, I'm still set up to experience that because it's just so bizarre, the combination. But I don't know. And again, not having played a lot of military first-person shooters, I can't tell what is. It's hard to separate this from
what is, like, first-person military shooter commentary.
Yeah, and what is, like, war commentary, like Full Metal Jacket or Apocalypse Now or whatever.
Very soon after, like, rescuing that guy and you go in is when the DJ starts kicking in full gear, and he just starts playing music that's just kind of surreal moments, and it's just some of the best missions and playthroughs of the game, in my opinion. Those were, like, the really, like...
Well, I did catch some of that at the beginning, because the first time you hear music, and I cannot remember what it was. Oh, it's like Hush.
Yeah.
It kind of lines it up. One of them goes, "Do you guys hear music?" And you can't tell if it's the soundtrack, and eventually they do reveal it to be the radio. I guess it's kind of similar to what, you know, happens in Fallout with the radios, but this is specifically timed. You don't get to choose.
Specifically timed and well choreographed to make it feel like you're playing Apocalypse Now, like you're in just this insanity moment of of all that. So, anything on the RPG Maker front to report?
I've gotten further along. I figured out why one of the things wasn't working. I made something else work. I think I have a theory on how to make a third thing work. I've added a new screen or two. And then I still don't know how to make dude not have to disappear without breaking it.
So we did get up a video on the site. I'll link to it in show notes. Hopefully I'll remember here in a moment. Of our first check-in. I may go another week or so before the next check-in, just so there's enough time on that. I'm gonna go ahead and hit YouTube so I remember to. Remember to link in our own video.
Oh, and you also said to remind me to tell you, mention to talk about the something Dare. I can't remember how you pronounce it.
Oh, Ludum Dare.
Ludum Dare.
The Ludum Dare is a competition that happens 3 times a year, I think. They have a monthly one, a mini LD, but the main one happens 3 times, and I believe I'm going to enter that this year, this April. I think will be the next one. If you go to the Ludum Dare, if you Google that and bring it up, LDM, LUDUMDARE.com. I'll link to it in show notes. You can go in there and sign up for the mailing list. It's the best way to get notified of when they actually set the dates. The way it works is the competition is a solo competition. So it's just you. You have to create everything from scratch. You submit your source code with your game at the end for the judges to review so that, everybody sees. You own it all, but you do have to submit the code to show that, it was all written by you from scratch.
You can't even use, helper methods and libraries and stuff. You have to...
You can use libraries that are publicly available to everyone. You cannot use stuff that's your own personal...
So you'd have to publish it, basically.
Yeah, so basically if you open source your library, it's good. If you don't, then you can't.
It's actually kind of brilliant.
Now, there's a game jam that happens at the same time as the game competition. The game jam, you can use this stuff. You get an extra day. You can have a team. You can use prior existing assets. I think even both of them, you're allowed to use any graphics you have the legal rights to. So they're allowing graphic packs and things like that, I believe. I'll have to check the fine-tuning on the rules. But the game jam is more of a for fun thing.
Yeah.
It's not the competition.
How long is the competition?
It's 48 hours.
Okay, so it's over a weekend, basically.
Launches on a Saturday, ends on a Monday. Launches Saturday at 10 a.m.
Okay.
Or I think it's West Coast time. So it's designed to launch at 9 or 10 East Coast time, so that it kind of gets everybody. It ends 9 or 10 Monday morning. 48 hours, and then you have to submit by the deadline your game that people download. They do talk about having web playable is preferred because nobody has to install. And I'm also thinking about for it, I might actually use Unity because we have that Unity 3 that we have license to. We got it when it was free, and that supports the Flash player, the Unity player deployment option, so people can play it in the browser. They talk about that because it's if you have the downloadable version of the game, then people have to download the game and run it and play it, and that's not as easy as, for us they would have to install XNA and they would have to, do a couple things. But I may go that route anyway. I may just decide, no, I know XNA, so I'm just going to pack in the XNA redistributable, run this, it'll install XNA for you.
Can you I assume you have to kind of plan out your game beforehand, or,
Well, so the thing is not until Saturday morning will you find out what the subject matter in the competition concept is.
Okay.
So, the last one, or the one before the last one, was loneliness. That was it. Loneliness. A game on loneliness. One game made a whole thing about, trying to turn every light out in a building. Somebody kept turning it on, and you didn't know if you were alone or not, or something. So it's all simple mechanic games, because you have to do it in
48 hours.
48 hours, but I would have to make everything. Like, there's no team support, and I kind of like that idea because it's kind of like just a good, like, soup to nuts build the whole game.
Yeah.
And do that. So, I had fun when I did that game over the weekend, coding project, I did that asteroid thing. Of course, I wasn't burning the midnight hour on this, so I may just go ahead and take that Monday off and say, like, all right, I'm good to go. Let's, Saturday they'll launch it, and then I will wall up in this room and sleep on the couch if I have to for an hour. But just non-stop code, whatever.
I'll have to see what my schedule is, and if the
exact dates aren't announced, but it will be around April. They do it quarterly.
I'll have to. That may be interesting, and since I've kind of played with HTML5, that might actually be a good option because, get to where I can spin
That's
up.
The thing is, like, if I was going to do Unity, I would want to get experience on Unity before the competition. I would not want to wait till the morning of the competition to go, time to learn Unity.
But it gives you an excuse to sit down and dig through some of the pieces you might not if you were just, like, getting the textbook understanding.
But again, I could do it so well and so quickly in XNA, I may just go ahead and say, doing an XNA. And, people do not like installers with these competitions. They really just want a zipped up, double-click this executable. And so it'd be really easy to say, like, here's a README. Double-click this executable if you don't need XNA installed. If you need the XNA redistributable installed, it's included in the download. Just double-click it, install XNA. If you need DirectX 9C or whatever XNA, I can put that redistributable in there as well. And just, include those files in there so that somebody could run them and install them. And, if people don't want to install it to rate it, then they don't install it to rate it, I think it'll be on me putting together a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Now, packaging the game, I think, or porting the game or something, does not count for your competition time. So I don't know how that works, but it said something like, if you want to, like, write it and then port it to the web, you can, like, write it in your game language and then port it to the web later. Of course, there's no, like, XNA2 web library.
Yeah.
So that, I don't have to really consider or work with, but I think I'm gonna go for that. So as that gets approached, and if you are interested, the best thing to do is sign up for the mailing list, because they'll announce kind of everything on the mailing list, like, hey, here are the dates, here are the times, now we're locked in on this, we're gonna do this, you basically sign up, make an account, you get, like, a blog on the site, to just, like, blog your journey or whatever, but I'll probably use, like, our Funkworks site or something to do that. Yeah. Probably use SNPV to, like, live stream it and get all that going and do that. Just to kind of, like, dive into, like, game competitions. And it's nice because it's a remote. Like, I don't have to leave the house to do it, so. Okay. Well, I think that calls it for a show. Next week when we're back, we'll catch up on the news. When you go to CES, you can't stay on top of the news coming out of CES and be at CES at the same time. So I haven't read any news as what's been going on.
I've paid
for
only
game development.
Very light attention to it because
or CES is not a big
really
game time.
Yeah,
it's going to be E3. It's going to be May.
Yeah.
That's going to be the big time. It's probably going to be quiet for then. But until next time, thank you everyone who tunes into the live show or watches us on YouTube or downloads the audio podcast. We will be back in a week.
You've been listening to GameMarx. Visit us at GameMarx.com for the latest news, reviews, and videos on indie gaming. That's GameMarx.com.
So, did not have any weird airport security tales.
Is that like an expected thing now?
I kind of expected some weird shit to go through. I mean, especially given the amount of electronics that I was carrying.
Yeah.
And I got online and I looked up all the regs and read all the new latest this and that. And I mean, I didn't even take any liquids. I didn't even like fuck with the little travel size shit. Fuck that. I was buy when I get there and throw away is what I did.
Yeah.
But no, I had the podcast window sitting in the corner of my desktop. Just like always there. We're just always in the corner of the desktop of Smiler 2.
Did we mention? Well, I mean, we have said that we would do it.
We did say, yeah. Chris is not going to be here. I actually don't know what happened to him. I'm hoping to hear something that he's okay. But I read, like, if you have a camcorder that takes tapes, then you have to have that out so they can open it. But if you have a camcorder like mine that records to flash media, you don't. But I'm like, oh man, they're gonna make me pull it out anyway. Because it like flips open and it's got a little panel or something, on the side.
Because you could put a bomb in the tape? I mean, what?
I don't know.
Is this just arbitrary? Like, they're drawing, pieces of paper from a hat. Cameras!
It seems like that. It's
with
like,
tapes!
It's like TSA decides regulations by playing Cards Against Humanity.
Yes.
And now going through Knoxville, I did get a little weird moment. Okay, again, just like, what is it, Fahrenheit 459?
451.
451. Fahrenheit 451. In the book Fahrenheit 451, right? Like the dude's like brought in and like, hey, you don't have enough photos of the back of your head. Do you remember this part?
I never read it.
Oh, you didn't read it? There was a movie made too or something. Do you ever see the movie or anything?
No.
Okay. Fahrenheit 451 is the temperature at which books burn. And this is basically a society this is like the dark path. We are now burning anything that's not safe to read type thing. And like one way they show insanity of the society is like when he's called in for security review or whatever by like their TSA. Although what's funny is like this book is written, it's an old book. Like, I don't know if it's 50s, 60s, maybe 70s, but it's written by God, why
Ray Bradbury?
Ray Bradbury. Okay. Yeah, it's a Ray Bradbury tale. So he's brought in by the security guys, and basically the security guy's like, yeah, we had to bring you in. You don't have enough photos on file of the back of your head. So it's like, yeah, there's a requisite number of photos you have to have, like 9 taken from the back of your head. It's just in this kind of like weird security theater, like where it goes and winds up. And I had that moment going through Knoxville Airport, which is generally wonderful, okay? Like they're actually friendly. They were just like, oh, sir, is there a laptop in your bag? I'm like, yeah, I set it in the thing. Okay, great. Because I just saw my bag and make sure it was out. And, Knoxville's great. If all the airports were like Knoxville, I would have no problems flying. It's the Vegas airport coming back I have problems with.
Right.
And actually, I didn't have any issues. It went through just fine. And I just went through a regular metal detector, too. Like, Vegas didn't even have the full body scan shit. Knoxville does. Knoxville has all that. So I go through, they're like, sir, put your feet here, hold your hands up, like, oh, I got it, and I scan, then I get through, and he's like, oh, well, you forgot to take your wallet out, didn't you? And I'm like, no, everything's out. Everything's out in the thing. It's like, oh, well, you've got something in your back pocket. And it's like, no. And when the pants I have worn, jeans, they were the ones that have the little flap over the pockets, right?
Yeah.
The little snap. So I'm like, I got little flaps, and like, I don't know whether I can like touch my ass at this point and be like, no,
it looks like you're pulling a
gun.
gun.
Oh, he's pulling a gun. Take him. Like, I don't know what the protocol here is at the moment. Like, so I'm just kind of like, I'm presenting my ass cheek to him of like, no, it's just a little flap thing. And, I'm like, here, let me check. And I go in, and he didn't say anything. And I put my hand in my pocket and pull it out. Like, there's nothing in my right ass cheek. And he's like, oh, well, and he shows me the little scanner where it's got like a little yellow mark, little yellow like post-it over my right ass cheek. Right? So this is like a silhouette, though. This isn't like the one where you see like the junk and everything that they can see. It's just like a silhouette of that. And there's a little yellow block over my ass cheek there. And, where it says, oh, there's something. And he's like, okay, well, step on this mat here, put your feet there, you know. So basically, like, now I'm gonna put my hand in your back pocket. Is that okay? You know, I'm like, okay, you know, there's nothing back there, right? And he puts on gloves, and then he's like, this is kind of a personal area, and I'm gonna get a swab or something. What? That's what he said, or at least that's. Again, he's on the right side of me, so I'm getting clipped through.
Okay.
But he put his hand in there, there was nothing in there. And then he breaks out what looks like the little wipes you get at the barbecue restaurant.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, you got a glove, and he's gonna swab down. Like, I don't care. Like, it's not a comment on my personal hygiene, dude. If I had to stick my hand down people's asses, I would swab and glove.
Right, but this was just in your pocket, right?
This is just in my pocket. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
No pat downs, no body feels,
yeah.
no turn and cough, none of that's going on, okay? And I said to him, I'm like, okay, yeah. And then he's like, all right, hold your hand flat. I'm like, at this point, like, I have one of my hand was down, and he grabbed it, and then he swabbed the front and the back of my hand. And I'm like, because I put my hand in my pocket? Like, I don't understand what's going on. And then he hands him a swab. He hands him the towelette to somebody over there, and then grabs another one and swabs my other hand, in which they scan now for something. For some kind of, like...
explosive chemical, I guess.
Residue,
you know,
yeah.
whatever.
And then, like, that comes back negative, and it's like, go. And I'm, like, thinking, like, that's our security? Like, what the fuck are you checking against at that point? Like, I forgot to wash my hands after lighting the C4 explosive? What, you know, like, what is that really going to catch? Anything ever? And that's when I had that moment. I just thought of, like, Fahrenheit 451, of, like, I don't have enough photographs of the back of my head.
Hey, guys. We've got this alcohol wipe. Let's see. Check this out. Check out what I'm about to do. Let's see how far he goes before he asks a question.
All the way.
Yep.
All the way.
I can't believe he did it.
Yeah.
Can't believe he just
like if they
let you
flipped it
do
over,
that.
it would have said Famous Dave's on the way.
Oh man, we can do anything. Yeah, like that's what happened.
In Vegas, they had a little TV monitor as you went to the line. It was a much longer line at Vegas. Took about 30 minutes to get through. And as you're approaching, they're talking about, like, you're not supposed to have this, you're not supposed to have that. I saw, like, this woman, older grandmother, opening up her suitcase. She's pulling out, like, a whole bottle of Chanel No. 5, a big thing of lotion, a whole thing of shampoo. I'm like, in what world, Grandma? Come on now. Like, it says 10 years later now. You can't have that shit.
I was going to say, can't you put those things in, not your carry-on luggage, but your checked luggage?
I don't know.
Because I want to...
Because there's weird things you can't check, like a lithium battery. You can't check lithium battery, I guess, because that explodes. So it's like the rules are all over the place.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I packed fairly light, which means I had everything crammed into 2 small bags, and got through without a lot of issue. The jokes on the monitors, though, were horrible.
Like...
Well, one of the jokes was, like, not telling jokes. Like, you know, it's like Rita Rudner is up there telling jokes to people on the line, and then it's like she turns and then, like, zips up and walks through without saying a word. It's like, you know, jokes are funny, but not at the security point, you know?
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, you don't want to make jokes about, like, hijacking or whatever.
Like, yeah, unfortunately, this other guy came through, he told a joke, he shot his fingers off, you know. Not our fault, because you don't tell jokes at the security line. Because we're serious about swabbing your hands, you know. I did not get swabbed in Vegas.
It does seem like, it seems like they're looking for something in particular. If they thought you had something in your pocket, there would be a whole other, like, procedure to make sure, you know...
Thank God it was in my pocket. Now here's the weird thing. It's like if my flap somehow on my right ass cheek, like, set it off, like the density of material, it didn't go off on my left side.
Did you say this was just a metal detector, not like a...
No, this was that scan.
Was a
this
scanner.
was the full body
yeah,
scan
right.
thing in Knoxville. And it didn't go off on my identical left. I'm not comfortable with the unbalance of ass flap pocketry
They just don't have the quality control on those buttons. I mean, it
could be that. Yeah, it could be like, just got cheap-ass
not
buttons
doing, Six Sigma or whatever. I do remember I want to say this was in the 90s. This was before 2001. When Dad and I were flying, I want to say...
Back when you could go to the gate and see somebody off?
Yeah. No, not quite that. Maybe it was after 2001. It was before, all the crazy, I don't know. It was either early 2000s, late 90s. Very late 90s. But I think, he had this, address book, notebook type of thing in his pocket that had the metal edges on the covers. Either that set him off or just, a normal belt. It was just, they took him through, this whole, take the wand, and it was something stupid that shouldn't even set it off.
Yeah. Yeah. I took my belt off. I'm not 100% certain if you're supposed to.
I don't know.
And it's funny, on the site, they talk about just set your shoes on the conveyor belt. They don't need to be in a tub.
Yeah.
They'll move on there. The fucking conveyor belt is a foot from the machine. It's all solid metal, sheet metal that you slide everything on. And if it wasn't in a tub, they wouldn't be moving forward. So it's it's not even up to date with, the reality of going through the line. I think the worst thing I hate about flying is it's the simultaneous pinnacle and valley of our society.
How so?
It's a pinnacle of,
we're
getting
flying.
on an airplane.
We're moving fast.
Moving
travel.
In a couple hours, you will be
anywhere.
You can get Wi-Fi, you can get internet on the planes now, right? It's amazing.
But
watching people, society, get on the fucking plane is depressing. Not only are they going to board you in groups, you're assigned to zone 1, 2, or 3, so just sit down and chill. You have assigned fucking seating. No one is ever going to take your seat, right? But yet people hoard up and they glom on to get on that plane as soon as fast, it's going to take off without them or some shit. It's no, you have a ticket. It tells you where you're going to sit. You're going to sit there. Doesn't matter if you get on early or late. You're going to sit there, And it's just this Lord of the Flies moment of well, they called Zone 1. I have Zone 2. I'm edging up in the Zone 1 line, so as soon as they call Zone 2, I can beeline to get in. And I'm always in Zone 3, Zone 4. I'm in the last group, so I'm always sitting down. Because by the time they call my zone, there's nobody in my fucking zone anymore. It's just me. I just walk up and go right through and get on because everybody pays. This was my tweet earlier. I don't know if you saw that.
Probably not.
If everybody's in Zone 1, it defeats the purpose of having the zone boarding. But on Delta, you can pay $15 for priority boarding. So Delta has tapped into this societal breakdown moment, and they're just yeah, you get to board earlier if you pay $15. So when they called Zone 1 in Vegas, the entire flight is in the line. It goes through. So many people go through that then I was okay, Zone 1 is tailing out. She's getting ready to call Zone 2. I'm putting my backpack on. I'm getting ready because my backpack was so fucking heavy at this point. So I'm manning up to okay, just gonna get this on the plane. Just gonna put this on my back, walk down there, and get on the plane. That's all we gotta do because I'm just worn out and tired. And I'm putting it on there, and she's Zone 2? Okay then, Zone 3. So Zone 2 and 3 were combined. That many people had upgraded. And then I turned around and walked right online and 5 people behind me.
People would rather wait on the plane than in the airport. Although technically, they just want to gripe about how long they waited in the airport and then gripe about how long they waited on the plane.
Didn't they used to sell tickets that were, if we still have room, you can sit here? Or do they still do that?
You can still do upgrades. You go up to the flight counter and you say, hey, I'm on this flight and I would like a upgrade if it's available.
Okay.
And they sell that shit now too. And then you get in a line, and then that's the name. That's the names. Right before they call the flight, they're always calling a bunch of names up to the desk.
Yeah.
Those are the ones who got the upgrade. But I think now on Delta, they're so into their rewards programs thing. Like, you get priority on that if you're a gold medallion and you know, your silver flyer or shit or whatever. Like, they sell so many upgrades that aren't first class that it's really fucking ridiculous. And I'm just going down with the drink cart of like, okay, oh, you're gold medallion. Like, they're referencing this thing of like, okay, you get like an extra fucking cookie or some shit, or, you know, you get like the whole can perk, you know.
It's like, if you're a gold member with so many points, you get a whole can of actual Coke. If not, you're the Rite Aid, half a Coke.
You know? And I'm just like, you just give me my fucking half can of ginger ale and that fucking cracker you call a cookie, alright?
Sometimes, you used to get the peanuts. I don't think you do anymore.
You have the option. I don't want the fucking peanuts. I'll take the cookie.
I didn't know if it was the...
But it's not a cookie. It's like a cinnamon cracker.
I don't know. I always...
A biscotti type thing or something.
It's like what I used to call... Like, I tell Jasmine that the vanilla wafers are cookies.
They kind of are.
They kind of are, but, I mean, like, they would give you the half of one of those and say, here's your cookies.
Although one guy got a spiced tomato.
A what?
I thought he was going to get, like, some vodka shit and, you know, celery stalk in it. Like, and it was like a grandpa.
A spiced tomato drink.
And like grandpa
Mary,
next
basically.
to me, like, and grandmother was next to him, you know, sweet old couple, and you know, I made small talk with him or whatever, and so I was like, oh, grandpa doesn't give a shit anymore, and he's going to get ripped on this flight, you know, with some vodka and tomato or something like that, you know, like, or some spiced rum and tomato juice and all that, and like, no, it's a can spiced tomato drink. What the hell?
It's like V8.
Does this only exist like on Delta flights? I've never seen that before.
It's probably just V8. I don't know why. I don't know. Like,
off-label V8, like they can afford Canada Dry, but V8, fuck those motherfuckers. They charge too much.
Exactly. I don't know. Was this like a straight flight, or was it?
No, I had a layover in Detroit on the way out, and a layover at Memphis on the way back.
So basically, like, how many hours?
Memphis is a fucking sad-ass airport, man.
Even worse than Knoxville.
I'm trying to remember what Memphis is
a nice
like.
airport. Knoxville's wonderful. Memphis is run down, but when you're landing, I'm not shitting you, 100 yards out my window is fucking apartments. Cars driving by and apartments. Like, that shit is way too close to an airline. It was basically like...
Don't you come in, like, over an interstate or something?
Yeah, you're
okay, yeah.
Right over the interstate as you're landing, and when you're landing right into the middle of the projects. Like, right all around you is housing, you know? And it's like, wow, you guys don't even have, like, the normal, like, miles around the airport of just, like, clear zone and everything.
No.
It's like, I can just jump off this plane, run 5 minutes, and be at someone's house, you know? And I'm looking at it, and there's not, like, a massive security gate or fence or anything either. So I'm sure that's been some interesting tales over the years of drunk drivers or whatever, just driving straight. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I'm on a really wide road, you know? It's like, oh, you're on the fucking, you know? I mean, it's uplifting in that, you know, it's not that big of an airport compared to some of the others. So it's like, I had to hop in Detroit 3 concourses.
Yeah. In
like 45 minutes. By the time I showed up, they were like calling my zone. Barely made it, but in Memphis, you know, I had enough time just kind of like a leisurely stroll, and when they boarded for Knoxville, you know, it's like flying from Memphis to Knoxville is not that crowded of a flight to get on.
Yeah. But I mean, generally on shorter flights, like all the snacks and stuff is kind of pointless because...
Yeah, that's the thing. The waitress just said on the intercom of like, look, I can't legally tell you can't get out of your seat to go to the restroom, but there are 50 of you on this flight. The flight is 50 minutes from wheels up to wheels down, and I have to do a drink service. So that cart's going to be in the aisle the entire time, and you may not be able to get back to your seat. You may have to stand the entire flight. But I can't legally tell you not to get up. I was just waiting for her to say, like, 50 people to serve drinks on, 50 minutes in the air, do the math, you know, keep your ass in your seat. You know?
I can't legally tell you not to sit down, but please read between the lines.
This ain't a meal. You're going to want to get something at the airport.
This is the last flight I have before getting off work, and God help me if you make that any longer.
Do you know how many miles I've traveled today?
I feel like stabbing you and making you a part of a different Mile High Club.
Well, and two, I kind of wonder on those little ones if they make them hop all over the place, because it seems like the Memphis to Knoxville loop is not enough to warrant like a dedicated loop. So it's like she has to do like Knoxville to Detroit, fucking Illinois, you know, to Memphis and back. You know, so you have to do all these little tiny hops, and it's just constant. It's the worst part of the flying, right? Because it's the boarding and the unboarding, and cleaning and getting ready for the next flight, and then society breaks down like at the getting off the plane. Of like, look, there is a very accepted norm of one row at a time. You know,
yes.
Like the only choice here is left or right. You know,
you wait until the people in front of you are clear. Otherwise, you're going to be standing a long time. Have fun with that.
And you're going to be making things worse.
Have all these assholes who jump up in the aisle and then start trying to reach 3 seats up to get their luggage out of the rack before the damn door is even open. You know, it's like you're going fucking nowhere, and you're going no faster than every row of seats. Like, this is just as ordained as it is when you get on the plane. In fact, they should just... I see because Delta sells the upsell, but they should really just board by seat number. You know? Like, okay, we got 60 seats on this plane. Give us the back 5. Okay, now the next 5. Now the next 5. Now the next 5.
And unboard the same way?
It will unboard from the front out, you know? But...
if you're going to act like children, we will treat you like children.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you would probably board and unboard so much quicker. Well, unboarding is always quick. But boarding, you know, is always like... You're always, like, all stopped up because the guy who sits in row 3 is ahead of you.
Yes.
Because they can buy zones and shit like that.
Yeah, with the big planes, you should load the first class first and get them back to that door, and then you load from the back end in.
I wouldn't even want to sit down in first class.
Well, they could get their drinks much faster, and they could.
But I know they get no. I would want to board first
because you get everyone else coming through.
Like everybody else, kind of gives you like the hairy, dirty eye of like, fuck you. Who are you to be up here in fucking first class?
I don't even know how much more first class costs.
There used to be those planes where you'd enter in between the first class and the coach, and so you wouldn't see the first class. They'd have that curtain closed by the time we got there.
There's a curtain. You can't see behind here. We have a wild-ass orgy stripper party going on.
And all you can hear is...
Oh.
Uh-oh. What?
No, you would think that, no. Those planes are too small for anything interesting to be going on.
Oh, you looked at your phone and you
So, no, I was checking Twitter while I was listening to you talk. That was not,
Yeah, I knew why you said oh, but I don't know why you said oh.
No, Smiler Tune, the first class get to board first. So it's like small children, wheelchairs, and first class all go on first, and then so they used to have these larger planes that where you boarded in the middle of the plane, and then for first class you turned left, and then everybody else turned to the right. But now you walk through first class to get to economy,
which is bullshit.
I guess it depends on the size of the plane too.
Probably.
It might. But I mean, I had a 6 across row plane for the second leg.
Like 3 on each side?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 on each side. That's big enough for the central entry.
I mean, when I went to Korea, I was on a plane big enough to have a middle row.
I think I've been on one once, and it was when I was flying.
That was the only time I've ever done that.
Yeah.
6 across, I think, is the biggest I've ever flown on. Because usually flying out of Knoxville, you get some puddle jumper to a major airport, and then at that point, it's not as far as it was going to be.
When we used to fly a lot when I was little, we went Delta and all the other big airlines, and the closest airport of any significance to us is, of course, 2 hours away in Atlanta. So you always go to Atlanta. So
hate Atlanta.
I know. So I've got really
I
got really used to the 3 in the center, 2 on each side, and 2 aisles. And so you're just like, okay, I'm going to board in the center of the plane, and we're never ever going to go to the left because that's the rich people. But Atlanta is fun to see. If you just want to watch people, just go to the airport and figure out.
Become angry.
I mean, like before all this lockdown, you could.
Atlanta airport staff do not give a fuck.
And they hate.
That is my problem with Atlanta.
They hate everyone, and they don't give a fuck.
And
I would do that no matter which airport I worked at.
But no, again, you go through Knoxville. They're wonderful, happy to help you. Vegas was wonderful, happy, and all that. Of course, there's like casinos all
right
lined
there.
up. You know, booze everywhere. You know, it's Vegas. They don't care.
The people are coming on are still drunk or too drunk or hungover to
even the security
cause
personnel
trouble.
Were curt, but still like human, not like stop, sir. And I was like, what the fuck? I was walking in the line, and I was following the line. I didn't realize it was like a traffic cone situation. Then they were like, sir, please hold for a moment, you know. And then they like they did some weird, like they rejigged the line wrapping because now it was getting later in the day and they were going to need to have more lines. So they had to cut the shortcuts out. So what was weird is they like right at me, they cut me off and then started making me go these weird paths and they would wait for the other line to wrap around and switch the thing. And it was actually kind of cool in the puzzly way in which like they had to keep us in a line. They had to keep them in a line with reroute.
There's obviously procedures for this.
Yeah, but never allow us to like duck under or just, you know, skip and get back over in here. The weird part is like after all this extra walking and shit, I'm right behind the guy I was. And I was like, well, that was a lot of walking for just being right back here. And he was like, yeah, I don't know what all that shit was about. They could have just, you know, just like redid the thing and you would have been right here. Maybe
it's because you looked smart enough to follow directions. It's like, I won't have to do much more than just tell him to just follow the line, sir. Follow the line, please.
And